Many new challenges have hit the automotive market, cars, trucks, SUVs in today's industry, and yet there's a new challenge. A new problem has just evolved with all these vehicles for sale. Yes, they create their own sets of challenges. For example, while many vehicles like this are clearly right off the boat and the truck, we have obviously all the shipping materials, we still have the tags and information on here as well. The fact remains is a lot of vehicles, like a lot of these along this row, have been sitting here for a significant amount of time. A lot of manufacturers like Porsche, being a luxury brand, haven't been selling like hotcakes. But we also know vehicles like the Nissans that we're looking at here, we're seeing lineups and lineups of brand new SUVs by Nissan. They're not selling very well either. And the OEMs, or the manufacturers, are actually incentivizing salespeople to sell old school, brand new, old stock vehicles. Vehicles that might already be a year or 2 years old are still not selling, and the OEMs are really pushing these vendors to sell those new old stock Nissan products. And then based on Cox Automotive, the average time that the cars are sitting on the lot for a Ford is about 100 days. There's about 100 days supply before all of the inventory runs out. The reason it's as low as it is only because of sales by the Mavericks, some of their better popular best-selling pickup trucks. The F-150s aren't selling particularly well, and the Lightnings in particular are selling very, very poorly. As on top of that, vehicles like the Mustang Mach-E here are selling extremely poorly, meaning that a lot of these vehicles are sitting on the lot for a year, possibly 2 years. People don't like these so much, in fact, so look, people are actually ripping parts off of these vehicles because the electric vehicle market is not as popular as a lot of people think. There's people that love EVs and there's people that absolutely despise EVs. Regardless, a lot of these vehicles are sitting on the lot for a significant amount of time. And manufacturers, for example, like Alfa Romeo, Jaguar, and of course the Stellantis products, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, are some of the poorest selling vehicles. And as a result, a lot of these vehicles are sitting on the lot. As a matter of fact, when the industry average day supply is around 76, a lot of these vehicles by Stellantis are often averaging 150, 160 day supply. And believe it or not, there's about 2 years to 3-year-old vehicles on these lots already. That's right, there's 22s, 23s galore on a lot of these car lots, and that means they've been sitting a long time. And what sort of problem does that cause? Well, lot rot's a real thing. Have you ever heard of that? That's where if the vehicle sits for so long, it actually starts breaking down, wearing down. Does it also impact the factory warranty? We'll talk about a few of those items. The reality is a lot of people are not buying these cars, trucks, SUVs. The cost of living crisis. Have you heard Big Mac charging $15 for a Big Mac meal? That's ludicrous. Housing. You can't even find a house for less than 1.5 million in Toronto or Vancouver. How about New York, Los Angeles? You go to some of the major centers, you can't afford to buy a property. People are moving to smaller centers because they can no longer afford the cost of living, housing, food, and of course vehicles, which continue to skyrocket, and literally for very little reason. The product's getting worse in quality and worse off. These vehicles are not selling, they're sitting. Day supply is rising. Yes, a new phenomenon. It doesn't matter what manufacturer, car, truck, SUV, they all carry the same factor. They've got things that deteriorate, whether it's the paint that shines. Of course, you get birds crapping on them, and that naturally does stain paint. Paint as well, subjected to heavy sunlight, does start to deterioration on that. Plastic starts to wear, because a lot of people park their vehicles in carports or garages. A lot of those factors aren't an issue once you buy it, but the longer they sit out on the lot, the more sun fade you start to see on plastic parts, which a lot of vehicles carry that these days. Paint all takes a toll. Warranty in most cases starts from the day that you write on the paper. So today is 2024. If you're finding a 2022 because it's a great deal but it's brand new old stock, most manufacturers will give you the warranty start effective the day you write on the dotted line. But I've even heard cases where there's some manufacturers that are saying it's the date of manufacture is the start date of that warranty, and by the time you buy a 22 in 2025, it could literally be out of warranty. Now, while that's more of a shady practice, you always want to ask every manufacturer, if you're stepping down, sitting down, writing on the dotted line for that new vehicle, you have to ask when the start date of that warranty is. Another big problem, when you look on the sidewall of the tires, these tires are not good forever, at least not safely. A lot of people will run them till there's nothing left. But just because you have lots of tread on the tire doesn't mean that tire's good. If that vehicle gets to a point where it's about 9 or 10 years old, it starts to develop little fissures and cracks and divots, and it starts to become slightly unstable. And a cracking tire, after about 10 years just becomes literally unsafe. And especially when people are buying SUVs, pickup trucks like this, they're towing weight. That puts a lot of burden, a little extra strain on the tires, suspension, and it becomes a literal safety hazard. So you want to make sure those tires are in good shape. The worst part is if you're buying a 2022 today, that's already 3 years old. So when you look at a truck like this, have a look at the tire. This will give you all the information you need. You look down here and there's a date code here, 0622. 06 is the week of the year. So there's 52 weeks in the year. This is the 6th week. So that's February 15th or thereabouts. But 2022 is the year, so this was made in 22, early of 22. This tire already is about 3 years old. Look, it's already been patched and plugged here too, as you can tell. So sometimes, in this case, this vehicle is just slightly used, but even new vehicles, new tires are often subject to wear and tear, cracking, fissures. After 10 years, they're not very good. I would definitely recommend throwing them out. And as well, you can develop flat spots where the vehicle starts to wobble when you get up to freeway speed. And so even with flat spots, you can drive it 10, 20, 100 miles and it'll still have that wobble. You park it overnight, it might even feel better for a while. You park it overnight, that flat spot settles in. And just something about sitting on hot asphalt just starts to take a toll and starts to burn a little bit of a flat spot on that tire with time. And if that vehicle is not moved in a significant amount of time, maybe monthly or weekly, then you could in fact develop flat spots. If it sits long enough for 10 years, it of course develops that natural cracking and aging. And the worst part is, as you buy a brand new, no old stock 2022, you now only have 6 or 7 years technically on a safe tire. And now the worst part is, as you get into hybrid vehicles, they have bigger batteries, or electric vehicles, they have even bigger batteries yet. And if you don't continually charge them, they will deteriorate. They have a limited shelf life. So if you have a vehicle that hasn't been moved or even started, if you're talking even a standard internal combustion engine vehicle with a standard garden variety glass mat battery or some other high dollar, high capacity battery, that battery can start wearing out. And as it wears out, then you might be facing a significant amount of dollars outlay. So you can buy yourself a brand new vehicle and then find that you only have a year or 2 years left before the battery doesn't hold a charge anymore. That's a significant challenge, because a lot of these vehicles with all their advanced technology usually means that there's always a sap, a draw on the system. Doesn't matter. It's not even a faulty system. A lot of these vehicles and electronics are constantly drawing for attention, for tech, just keep everything alive. But in doing so, if you don't move that vehicle in significant frequency, for example, at least once a month, then you could in fact not give it enough charge time and you have to change your battery in short order. You could literally buy yourself a brand new 2022 vehicle that's just been sitting on the lot for 3 years thinking you've still got yourself a new vehicle. But in fact, the reality is the old idea of lot rot is alive and well. You could have bad tires, bad batteries, paint starting to fade, and the worst part is the warranty may or may not be there when you actually need it. Another big consideration, as they sit, especially in a lot of back lots, you get a lot of rodents. And it's not uncommon to get rodent infestation into some of these vehicles. A lot of modern day vehicles are using soy insulated wiring. Yes, they've gone away with a lot of the PVC wiring, so soy tends to attract rodents, mice, rats, rabbits, and depends where the wiring's routed. In some cases, mice are known to get into a lot of the wiring. Now, the longer they sit, the bigger chance of that happening or them setting up a nest. You don't want these vehicles sitting around too long. The longer they sit, the more likeliness of rodents and other animals getting into the vehicles, into the wiring harnesses, and causing big problems. So it's not that buying a 3-year-old truck that's new old stock with 0 miles on it isn't a bad idea. You can get yourself an amazing deal, but just know this, as the longer the vehicle has been sitting on the lot, a lot of customers don't even realize that they might, in a 2 or 3 years later, actually have to change, have to change batteries, possibly look at doing tires in a few years, even if they're not worn out. It ages like the rest of us. We age like fine wine, but a lot of these vehicles do age, and it does end up costing the buyer a little bit more money. It also costs the OEM. The manufacturers, of course, are on the hook for a vehicle that has been deteriorating. It could start leaking. There could be other issues that you haven't necessarily recognized. New vehicles that are brand new off the showroom floor likely aren't leaking. But with age, heat-cool cycles over several winters, now all of a sudden you've got a vehicle that the gaskets may or may not be holding as well, and you could all of a sudden get leaks that the actual factory has to deal with rather than the dealer. With all of that said, check out right there what is going on with Toyota. What's actually happening? They've screwed their customers. I can't believe it. I never thought that day would come. Hope to see each and every one of you. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.